Welcome to the Smart Women in Business podcast with me, your host, Jane Mackay. We've got big ideas for small business. Hello and welcome to the Smart Women in Business blog and podcast. Today I am talking to Kate Strong. Kate is on a mission to unite the world of doing good and the world of making money through coaching, keynote speaking, and business consulting. Kate is a world champion triathlete, aerospace engineer, Reiki Master, entrepreneur, philanthropist, TEDx speaker, plant-based advocate, and investor. Welcome to the show, Kate. What an incredible bio. I'm thrilled.
Thank you so much for having me, Jane.
You are so welcome. So tell me about your amazing journey, because it's a very interesting one.
It is. Well, you can never sort of predict where you're going to end up. So I started off the traditional way. I went to university as per my parents' sort of pressure and request, and studied engineering. I loved maths. I loved science. I was always drawn to the intuitive or emotional side of things, but it wasn't logical to the family. So I followed what they wanted. Hence me graduating with a double master's in engineering and working in aerospace for a few years. Straight after university, I went traveling, and that's when I fell in love with philanthropy and being an entrepreneur. I loaned, I think, $2 to some families to buy some bananas, and they made some popsicles and sold them at a profit to some travelers. And I just saw the change it could make. It meant that kids could buy books for school, and it really opened up the world of entrepreneurship to me, meaning you don't need $1 million to change somebody's life or our own as well. And after a bit of work in aerospace, I moved to Australia, where you're obviously from, and got into hospitality. I didn't fit the norm of working for somebody else within the small tolerances of engineering. So I really liked serving. I loved connecting with people. And so bought a franchise and eventually bought my own guest house and restaurants, where I worked really hard. So complete respect to anyone in hospitality.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, the reason in short why I do what I do today is to answer the question how. A lot of people kept asking me how I was doing what I was doing, how I was achieving what I did in my sport, how I managed to run my business, etc. And so I wanted to be able to give back, but also make sure that I managed to sustain my life as well. So that's brought me in very brief way of where I am.
Which has just been amazing. So you came from this sort of genus, I think in 2012, and then you've evolved, your business has evolved over the last few years. So tell me kind of how that evolution happened. What were your signs for change, and what were the triggers for you to step up and make a difference?
I think for everyone, well, for myself in particular, the change has to start with ourselves. I realised that I was living for other people, in short. I was ticking the box of society. I had a boyfriend, I was buying a house in suburbia, and I was sort of working this job to sustain a lifestyle that I wasn't actually complete or comfortable in. I found quite a few nights I was having a glass of beautiful Chardonnay, but to take the edge off it. And I thought, I don't want a life where I want to sort of dull down parts of it or not get connected. And so the reason I stepped into what I'm doing, and I've completely lost my train of thought, but that's the joy of these live podcasts. The reason I'm doing what I'm doing is just to sort of bring passion and joy back into my life, and also make sure other people don't really do what I did, in the sense of putting other people first. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a trap that so many of us fall into, is the expectations, and then living up to other people's expectations, and then finding yourself miserable. And I've seen that in clients, and I've seen that in friends, and they go, why don't I've done all the things I'm meant to do, why don't I feel happy?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I completely resonate with that. And you know, we also treat happiness as the destination. Like, you know, if we do these 5 steps, we will be happy, full stop. That's it, at the end of the day. We forget that it's an every day, every minute sort of journey that we need to honor in everything we do, our habits, our rituals, our thought processes, and our actions as well.
I've spoken about this with previous guests. I've read the book Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, and that's about, we fall into these behavioral habits and they become our personality. And if you fall into the habit of being unhappy with yourself all the time, then where are you going to find that joy? And joy is something you have to work on every day. So that's, yeah, it's really interesting. So how do you manage your life every day in this business? It's a very broad, interesting business that you have. If you want to give people a bit of background as to how you do what you do.
Sure. So, I mean, I wear a few hats. The primary one is I'm a coach. I love helping people in the startup or growth phases. They've got this amazing passion that they want to monetize and help or bring to the world. And on the side, I do consult for larger organizations as well, be that as keynote speaker, or I do facilitate workshops as well. And I have invested in a few companies as well that have sort of struck a chord. I'm blessed that I have a very low cost lifestyle, so I'm able to do that. So yeah, my day is very, very diverse. It's interesting because a lot of people who might be listening we work alone. We might have a lot of clients online, which is what my situation is. And it's almost self-generating ourselves. So I do give myself the discipline of specific tasks I have to complete every single day, and also the weekly tasks. But after that, I let it flow. So I don't have to work 9 till 5. I work where I'm the most productive, and I sleep or rest or do my exercise when my body needs it as well. So I am grateful. I might work longer hours, but I also have longer breaks as well throughout the day.
That's the joy of being a freelancer. I said, my boss let me have a nap today, and if you need, because we do give so much, we put out so much energy when you're working by yourself, and then you're working one-on-one with clients. And if you're doing that for hours at a time, it's really taxing. And so it's like, well, I'm going to go for a run in the middle of the day, or I'm going to have a nap. And that's why we don't work in an office. So what does a great day in the office, like, what's your favorite things to do in your business?
I absolutely adore creating content. So I'm at the moment writing an online course for another company, actually. So we're collaborating to bring it to the millions, hopefully, next year. So I just enjoy sort of unpacking what other people see complex to systemize in a very simple step procedure. But I don't like just leaving it to the how to take these 5 steps. I want to make sure we always leave intuition, so people are left with their own tools. We're not all going to be cookie cutter models running out. We're going to be adding our own personality. So that's what I absolutely adore doing. Is something I'm looking into at the moment is quantum physics. It's, in short, the law of attraction.
Yeah.
And you just touched on it. So what we think about ourselves, we can also manifest. But what does that actually look like in real life, in business? And how can we use our patterns of language to be able to manifest our business with integrity, but not just sitting back there going, oh, it'll come to me tomorrow, but backing it up with that action as well. So I'm delving into that a little bit at the moment as well.
That's so fun and so interesting. And the way that we create those things, or we either repel or attract things into our lives, is something that I've been looking at over the last few years now. But it's interesting because when you bring that into your business, you realize how often energetically we get stressed about things, and then those things get bigger. And then if you're in your business and you're being joyful and you're being grateful and you're energetically being aligned with what you do, it's so much more happy and abundant. And that's really interesting. So do you think women use intuition more than men in their business? Do you think we're more reliant on our intuition?
I think, yeah, feminine energy in itself is very intuitive. We had to be. If you go back to our ancestors, man needed to fight or flight. They needed to logically work out things, and we needed to go with a bit more instinct to trust ourselves more, and that is definitely present. And what's interesting, if you look around the world, is we are stepping more into the matriarchy, the female power. And I'm not talking about gender differences, and I'm not talking about girl power here, because that's just the male power packaged up with a female presence. I'm just talking about us getting more feeling, more heartfelt, making sure that everyone collaborates, that we're not seen as competition in the world, we're seen as collaborators where everyone can win. and that is being seen more relevant and prevalent throughout the world. So I cannot wait actually to see.
I can't. I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
I can't. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she's just turned 9. She turned 9 yesterday, and I was saying that when you get older, because she's like, what is feminism? Well, that's a big question, darling. But I said it's about us trying to bring women to the power equal to men, and also giving men the permission to use their feminine energy as well, because we all have it. And when that feminine power comes to the fore, it is about that collaboration, and it is going to, well, in my mind, it is going to change the world. It is going to change the paradigm in which we live, and the way that power structures are set up across the world. And I think that's what we're on the cusp of, I hope.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why there's a bit of turmoil at the moment, because we naturally resist change. And we're seeing that in Britain, where I'm sitting with
Brexit. Gosh.
We're seeing it in America as well, just to name 2 countries.
And even
so it's
here,
showing that we're in turmoil. So yeah, definitely we're going to be seeing the blossoming of a new power, if you want to say it like that.
Oh, we hope. We hope. And it's very interesting because another thing about the law of attraction is that we do resist change. Naturally, our brains want to keep us safe. They want to keep us in our comfort zone. They want to not change. They want to keep us in that safe space where we've always been. So change can be really challenging, even if it's just energetic change, which sounds quite simple, but when you're actually applying it, living it, it is hugely challenging. And obviously, through what you've achieved in your life, your self-reliance and your own reliant on your own energies within you and your own motivation, you must have been through some huge energetic challenges and mental challenges to achieve everything that you have.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. I mean, I didn't say it earlier, but I'm also world champion in triathlon. So I used to compete for Australia in triathlon, and that was born out of a change that I didn't foresee, which was my partner left me 6 days before my wedding in New South Wales.
Oh my gosh.
And, with $1 million debt, just to add to the drama. And that's when I realized we don't have control of change. All we can control is our reaction to it. And I can use it as an excuse and hide under a bottle of wine or a rock.
Yeah.
Or I can use this as a way to sort of re-find myself. And I chose the latter. It didn't come overnight. But yeah, magic can happen, but we have to embrace change, however uncomfortable that is.
And painful. Oh my gosh. It's interesting you mentioned Charlotte McShane lives down here. Well, her family lived down here. So in terms of amazing triathletes and amazing women around the world doing incredible things, I struggled through a 2K run, but that's okay. At least I'm out there doing it. So what are your favorite tools that you use to be productive in your business? Because working alone, procrastination is real, people.
Yeah. I break my day down into 2 simple tasks. What are my 2 biggest tasks I can achieve? One in the morning, one in the afternoon. They may be business related. They may even be personal related. So that's a very simple task I do. And at the end of the week, I apply my 3 Ds. I look at my to-do list and I either do it immediately, I delegate it, which might be, pushing it to the next week, but I do it with consciousness, not just finding out on Monday I have extra work, or I dump it. So the 3 Ds, it's a very simple task. It just allows me to get rid of things off my list so I can have a clean weekend and I can start afresh the next week with the same energy. So I've not got that stale, I should have done this hanging around. So that's a really simple tool that seems to be quite effective. And I don't need an app for it. I don't need anything special. I can just, it's just done. Yeah,
I'm a notebook girl. My brain is my notebook, and people go, why don't you use your calendar or something? Because I don't want to be looking at that over the weekend, as you say. Just have my notebook on a Sunday, write it down, and that's it. It's done. And then you don't need to think about it. So it's interesting how different people delegate their time. Some people are like, I've got to do 30 minutes on this and 30 minutes on that. But if you just take a more holistic approach or a higher level approach, just get it done, or delegate or dump. I like it. So one of the things that affects every single entrepreneur I've ever met in my life is the dreaded imposter syndrome. So what are your methods to overcome this, and how do you respond to the bad days in business?
Good question. I've actually recently been struggling a little bit with this myself because my business is taking a new angle, and I'm going back into aerospace actually as a consultant. Wow. And so, yeah, the imposter syndrome's back up because it's been 15 years and, who am I to talk to these white collar suited men, and I'm sitting there with my short blonde hair, chatting like a non-engineer. So I caught myself, and I remember this tool that I've started to do again, which seems to really help, because 9 times out of 10, if I find myself, in paralysis, because that means if I find myself not doing things, that usually means that I'm, self-doubting myself. I remember that I must be comparing myself to somebody, or I must be comparing myself to what I should be doing or who I should be. And so what I write down is 4 questions I ask myself. What could I do more of, better of, different of, or less of, that will actually help me become more comfortable and competent in this role? So it's a much less judgy, what am I doing right or wrong, or good or bad, but it still allows me to evolve and develop, but also honor what I'm doing today. That is kind of cool, because I'm still in action and I'm still achieving stuff as well.
And the procrastination is often a symptom of that resistance. And so, yeah, I hate the word should, hate it. It's like my least favorite word, because if we feel we should, there's an emotional tie to that. Whereas if you just go, how can I develop? How can I change? What can I do better? Less, more of, that is a very simplified way of not attaching that emotion to it and that judgment of ourselves. Because that's where the imposter syndrome comes up, is that we should be doing this. I should be here by now. I should be doing this. I should be earning that. And, we need to go a bit easier on ourselves, I think. So how do you maintain your sense of community while working alone? This is something that's really interesting for a lot of my podcast guests.
That's a really good question, because, I could easily say I've got my social media, but it's not the same. So what I do is I make sure I have coffee dates. I have 1 or 2 friends that they might even be just PTs. So on their admin days, we catch up once a week and we can just sit next to each other, have a coffee, and we might not say much, but at least I have someone connected. Yeah. I make sure I get out of my house every single day. I have a certain favorite cafe. I always have coffee in at 10 a.m. and I work there for an hour and a half as a breakup, and just socialize. In the evenings, I join networking events. That's actually how I became a Reiki Master. I just wanted something weekly that would give me something different, outside the box thinking, that isn't necessarily work, but would still add to my personal journey. And next year I'm going to take up ceramics, because why not? Oh, nice. It's using my brain, it's using my creativity, but it's not necessarily challenging me mentally as well. So it's about, again, making sure we get out, we put it in the diary, and we keep connecting using whatever we've got around us.
So, ceramics would be beautiful. I haven't done that since school, but it'll be like meditation, but with clay. So,
yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know. I'll have a look. You can send me a bowl. What's your why? What keeps you motivated every day to do what you do and how you do it?
I think my biggest why, I keep revisiting it, because as we evolve, also, our sense of purpose evolves as well. My biggest why is that every being thrives. Everything I do, I want people to live a conscious life, but also thrive in it. Far too often, it breaks my heart. I look back to even myself, say 10 years ago, I was just surviving. And we deserve so much more. We're spiritual beings, and that's my biggest why in what I do. On a shorter term level, I just love pushing life to the max, if only to give people the permission to step up a bit more, just like your 2K run. Maybe next week you'll do 3K, because that's pushing your limits. It's a non-judgmental space, but it's just saying, well, if Kate can do something crazy and extreme, then maybe I could step up a little bit more. So I give you permission to dare to dream that little bit bigger and go for it too.
I won't take my 5-year-old on a bike next time. That's the challenge. Don't go ahead of me, Mum. Okay, one foot in front of the other, and breathe. But running's that great moving meditation, and that it's funny because when I was younger, I was always like, exercise will make me too tired, and it's completely opposite. It's like meditation. Meditation gives you more energy. Exercise gives you more energy. And all these things that you think will, like sleeping, necessarily doesn't give you more energy, nor does coffee. But exercise and meditation are two things that I use to give me more energy. So yeah, it's interesting how we don't honor our bodies. We assume we're doing what we should be doing. It's interesting. Anyway, so what's your number one tip or your top tips for all the smart women in business across the world?
Find your purpose, find your passion, and honor ourselves. We don't need to be anything other than our true authentic selves, and we'll naturally attract our tribe. So just get connected, share our messages, and collaborate, just like what we're doing here.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So, well, thank you for your time today, Kate. So how can people find out more about you and what you do?
I've got a website and on most social media channels, and my website is katestrong.co. That's it at the end. And yeah, connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter and Instagram. It's always a pleasure to hear what other people are up to.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kate. I'll put all of Kate's links in the show notes, and I really appreciate your time today, Kate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have been listening to the Smart Women in Business podcast. If you'd like to find out more about me, your host, Jane Mackay, visit janemackaycommunications.com.au.